You can turn this into this. Today, I want to show you how to make rose water. And the rose water, when we say rose water, it might not mean a lot to you, but by telling you how this can be done, you can also make thyme, oregano water, orange blossom water. You get the idea of how a rose like this can turn into water with the great smell. The first thing on your mind could be, Refika, how can we use rose water? Rose water, especially from the Ottoman time, is used in many of the recipes. Mostly it was for desserts. There are two very famous desserts. One is su muhallebisi, a water pudding, which is a pudding done with some water, sometimes with a bit of milk and starch, and then the rose water with the petals is poured on top and it becomes this gorgeous thing. Secondly, it's güllaç, which is food with rose. It means it's very thin layers of rice starch, and sometimes nowadays they're using cornstarch, unfortunately. Layers of güllaç wetted with milk, a bit of sugar, and rose water. And when it gets really cold, you get that milk taste in your mouth with an incredible niceness of rose. And why is rose a bit special? When I think about the rose, the first thing that comes to my mind in European tradition is actually American Story. Do you remember the film?
The girl lays in a bed of roses.
Bed of Roses, yeah. And then Guns N' Roses follow. Rose is different from all the other flowers. Rose has a different kind of weight. And this is not a surprise because the frequency of things are measured, and the highest frequency in the world in anything is rose. A dead person has a frequency of 15. I think our frequency is around 60, 70, but I might be wrong. I will write the right one here. Frequency of canned food is 0, very close to 0, or the frequency of the rose is 320. And Refika, what the hell are you talking about, you might ask? Okay, we are with energy, and in some rooms we get in and everyone looks at us. We're high in the frequency, our energy is high. Sometimes we feel invisible from inside, and sometimes that inside feeling goes through outside, and we go through and no one turns their head and looks at us. So the answer is a nice rose water bath kind of thing. It could be when we love someone, we give that person a rose, Bahar.
Yeah, thank you.
And to my Taurus friend, Akın. And the yellow one goes to Mrs. Hande.
I'm so lucky.
Yeah. And the feeling of the rose really cheers up. This is not a surprise, it's kind of magical. So, coming back to making rose water. For example, these roses I have planted these roses 26 or even longer years ago in my mom's garden, and hoping that if I get married there, I'm gonna walk through the patio with roses around. But I thought when I first did that, probably I'll get married earlier than they grow up. Now they're like huge trees,
But
and I'm
you can
single,
still
huh?
get married there. I mean, this is still a valid dream.
Okay, we can party there at least. Anyways, but these beautiful roses which smell incredible, you cannot get really nice rose water from them. But these roses, for example, when you look at the petals, they are not really intense. But when you look at these roses, it's packed with petals, and the smell is much higher. Allah. Sorry, the smell is much higher. So these roses are special roses in Turkey. There is a city called Isparta, the most famous for its rose. Probably in the world. I don't know if there's another country. If there is, please write it down. That is very famous for its rose and rose water. Anyways, so to start. Now here I have a distillator. I had another distillator which was specially for getting orange blossom water and rose water out, but I think someone stole it. So this distillator is also, sometimes they make alcohol with this as well, but this is, you can easily find it. I'll write also at the explanation below. I'm going to give some Amazon and different kind of links to where you can find these distillators. So, how does a distillator work and how from these roses, how you can make rose water? Now, first of all, it has 3 parts. Hop. First part is where you put the water, and I'm going to put some water here. The second part, there are holes here. The water will boil and it will start to evaporate.
Like an espresso machine.
Kind of, sort of, yes. From these holes, the water will start to boil and then it will start to evaporate. And from these holes, it's going to go up and we're going to put some rose petals. I do not clean the rose, I do not wash it because I want the air to go around, and when you wash it, some of the oil in the rose, which gives that incredible smell, will go away. So I put here the roses and then I'm gonna close it like this. Here is closed, here is closed. The water starts to evaporate and it's gonna go up and it will go through. It's gonna heat up because of the steam. It's gonna go here. And here there are pipes and the pipe starts to swirl. Why? Because it's gonna heat up and I'm gonna put some cold water here. It will start to precipitate. The steam goes here, it takes the essential oil. The essential oil starts to also evaporate with the water. It goes down here and then when it really gets hot and when we put the water, it starts to get cold and precipitate and the steam will turn into water and the water is gonna drip from here. But because it's really hot, like a kettle, it's almost like a kettle, what I have to do is from the top I'm going to put cold water, from the bottom I'm going to put the heated water away. So that's how basically it works. If I do not put really cold water here, the steam goes up, it doesn't precipitate, so I lose it to the air. So everywhere smells great, but I do not get the extract. Now, I'm gonna turn this on until the water boils. We probably have like a few minutes. At that time, I want to show you this system. Only there is one pipe here. I'm going to put the excess water here. I'm going to use the hose that we use to water the plants. But this doesn't fit here. So, small practical information, how we can extend this. Here, I'm going to heat up inside like this and use something thick to extend the hose. So, small tip, practical tip. Okay, this goes on, but the whole hose, it's too much. So I have to like use tons of water. To decrease that, I'm going to have a small tip. Here's like thumbtacks. Are these called thumbtacks?
Tic-tacs.
Tic-tacs, okay. I'm gonna close it like this. So half of it is closed. Now, together with Burak, we have to find a balance now. Burak is gonna put some water. First a little more, Burak. Now you can reduce it. Okay, a little more. Okay, until it comes to a balance, like a little lower, a little lower, a little higher, a little higher. Now, when you touch here, it's really, really hot. As you can see, it started to come up. The water here should be cold. The pipe is gonna eventually be hot. And it's gonna start to drip one by one. We shouldn't put something like a big beeper here. The difference with this one and this one is, as I said, the rose water is gonna be like, what gives the incredible smell is essential oils. It's very easy to evaporate, so if it's open like this, it will start, the niceness will start to evaporate and we're gonna lose that beautiful smell. Another thing we have to be careful about, if I put my fingers here, now it's cold. And that is like kind of a balance of how much water gets in and how much water gets out. If quite a lot of water is dripping down, if it's less than this, and this water heats up, again, it doesn't work. So that has to be in a perfect balance. If this gets hot, it starts to evaporate. Instead of precipitation, it's gonna evaporate and we're gonna have nice smell around, but we don't have good rose water. So this is kind of like the balance of how we make rose water. Another thing that I like doing, I have learned this from my Refika abla, my cousin, my aunt's daughter, which we carry the same name because our grandma was same, Refika Hanım. She learned from a Lebanese friend. It's called white coffee. And white coffee is, you put hot water and you put some orange blossom water and you drink it and it's great. And you can do it with rose water as well, a few drops of rose water and hot water and you drink it. You can do it with cold water too, it's all good. It kind of like cleanses you from inside. Another thing that is very widely used is cleaning the face. After you remove the makeup and you clean it with a tonic or something, the pores are there, but there are still some leftovers, and rose water makes an incredible shine. It gives you a really healthy feeling, probably increases the frequency of the face, I don't know. Something like that. So this is basically how it is done. So that's it, guys.
How do you know when you have to change roses?
Great question. It's actually from the smell. The smell first is very nice rose smell. Then it starts to smell like you're not getting a rose water, but getting some water out of something green, like grassy smell. If it starts to turn like that, stop it. And I'm going to just, I think it's all done. Now I get that smell. I'm going to turn it off, which I am turning it off. And then this is really hot. Let it cool down for a few minutes, or I can wash it with a one thing. I'm going to cool here a bit, and then we turn the water off. When it's really hot, you cannot take it off. Now it's still hot. Be careful because there's steam inside. I'm going to put it to running water here. Yeah. Okay, it's done. Actually, this is much easier to do in the garden. Now I take these roses like this, as you can see.
And what do you do with those?
These are great for compost, but I am sure there must be another way of using them. I really don't know. If you have another good idea of how we can use those petals, please write it down. I'm thinking maybe can they be used for jam? I'm gonna check. They will be able to use for jam. I'm also gonna write it for you guys. Now everything is continuing. Now everything starts again. As you can see, we had the church. Now we have the ezan. If you come to Istanbul and if you come to where we live, we're in Kuzguncuk, and Kuzguncuk is famous for its multi-religious background a century ago. Here we have a church, a synagogue and a mosque almost sharing a garden. I believe it's closer than the ones in Jerusalem. So you get an incredible kindness that existed once, and also us. If you visit, we would be really, really happy. Now, same thing again, where we're going to continue doing this until we finish all the roses.
I have one question. How do I keep this? In the fridge? How long?
How do we keep this? For example, this is almost done. Put a new one. It's very important to close the lid. And we have to keep this on somewhere which is cool and which doesn't get direct sunlight, because sunlight makes it work. And for example, what I do, I have one from my dearest aunt, Emine teyze, which she did probably 5-6 years ago. It's in the fridge and it still smells beautiful. When I miss her, I take it off and have a sip of smell, and I remember her and close it and put it back in the refrigerator. So keep the lid closed, and if you keep it in the refrigerator, it's gonna go for really long.
And one more question.
Yes?
What's that big thing behind you?
What is this big thing behind me? This is, I'm gonna show you from the side as well. This is, as I said, Isparta is very famous for its rose water, the city. And this is an ancient distillator from Isparta. And how it works. In here, what we did is we put the petals inside here. We didn't put it in the water. But when it's like huge, it sometimes is not so possible to do that. So what they do, they put water here and also the roses here, and it goes up. And I am going to show you the inside like this. Water comes and evaporates and comes to the top like that. And the top is cooled through water from somewhere, and the top gets cooled down. And what happens is it starts to precipitate. And when it starts to precipitate, it slides to here. And when it slides to here, as you can see, there is like a small valley here. And the precipitated water gets collected here and then it starts to drip. Okay? So this is how it works.
This is how we do it.
This is how they used to do it. So if you come to Istanbul and visit us, she's gonna be with us in the building and you can touch that. So this is it. And hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you enjoy like things that not much people talk about, and I think this is one of those. If you like what we do, please subscribe to the channel because the world is too big and you found us now, but you won't maybe able to see another thing, another goodness from us again if you don't subscribe. And plus your support means a lot because as you know, the world is going through a lot. Turkey is going into so much. I hope it doesn't get worse. We want your prayers, we want your good blessings and good energy, frequency, and hope a thumbs up from here. Take care.